All right, guys. So context for today's webinar. So we're talking about nutrition in terms of how it can be used to help our immune system. Obviously, right now we're all working from home and we're at home and for obvious reasons of the COVID-19 outbreak. And really we want to take this time, just provide some education and some insight on how you can use nutrition to really help support your immune system for optimal performance. Okay, we're going to try to give some, we're going to try to help guide around some misinformation and some ways that we can really educate to just better improve our overall understanding around nutrition and some practical ways that we can approach this moving forward. I will say at one point during this, I'm going to have a little activity for us. So if you do have a pen and paper nearby, that I would encourage you to just have that ready. You still probably have 5 or so minutes until we actually need it. All right, guys, so some comments beforehand that I want to just get out. Everything that I am sharing today has been pulled from reliable and accurate resources, credible organizations, some different studies that I've found on nutrition and the role that it helps with the immune system. So if you guys have any questions or want to know where I got these sources, do not hesitate to ask me. I will be more than happy to provide you those links so you can maybe dig a little bit deeper, find some other information. But that's really important for myself as a professional, but also for what we stand for at South Landing CrossFit is really trying to put away myths and misinformation, because in the world of health and fitness, there's a lot of confusion in terms of nutrition, and really there's 100 ways to skin a cat. But there are certain methods and things around nutrition that we know just work and have been shown through science and research, and that's our goal, is to provide that information to you guys to hopefully just clear up some misunderstanding around nutrition. Like I said, if you guys want any of those sources, I'd be more than happy to give you those. So starting off, I want to talk a little bit about the immune system, right? This big fancy word that we've probably been hearing a lot about, and how COVID-19 or different viruses can affect our immune system, and really what is our immune system and how does it work? I'm going to make this very broad because our immune system can be extremely complex and there can be a lot of things. I mean, we could spend 60 minutes talking about the immune system itself. So we want to make it very broad and give you a really basic and simple understanding of how nutrition can help our immune system. So to start off, our immune system is a complex network of cells inside of our body that help protect us from foreign invaders such as viruses, bacteria, toxins, or parasites. These can be picked up through daily life. You can go to another country and you could pick up a bacteria or virus. You know, they come from all sorts of directions. And one thing I want to kind of put out there is that we can't necessarily boost our immune system. And why this is the case, because our immune system is a complex system. It's not just a single entity that you can just boost by taking a supplement or eating a certain food. However, we can do things on a daily basis to support our immune system to help work more optimally. This really gives us the best chance to fight disease and honestly prevent disease from happening later in life as we age and as we kind of go through the wear and tear of life. So again, just kind of keep that in the back of your head. So really what happens when our body comes across different foreign invaders? So it's kind of a broad term, anything virus, bacteria, parasites, etc. I'm going to use the term foreign invader. That way it's just more simple. So when our body comes across a foreign invader, it goes into an attack mode, right? We can use the term immune response. And this is simply just saying that our body is going to react to whatever this foreign invader is, and it's going to help fight the foreign invader, right? So anything that's causing harm to our body is just going to react to it. So in a nutshell, our immune system is a massive system, right? It's not simply just this thing that we have that keeps us healthy. It is this very complex system that is inside of our body that's crucial for survival. And we can do things on a daily basis to help us stay healthy, help give our immune system more optimal performance to fight infection. And the one specific thing we're going to talk about today, that how we do this, is nutrition. So how does nutrition play a role in our immune system and how we can use it to help fight off disease? So getting into some actually shocking facts about nutrition and in general across the world. Some recent studies have been shown that around 6 million children, so just children, die per year of infectious disease caused by a breakdown in the immunity or in the immune system. This has been related to malnutrition. So essentially, 6 million children across the entire world have a poor nutrition, whether that's through lack of resource or lack of availability, and they essentially die due to infectious disease because of that, right? The immune system is not supported by nutrition, and this happens. One quote that I actually would encourage you guys to write down, this is actually from the Harvard Health. They came out with a statement in a recent article, like any fighting force, the immune system army marches on its stomach. And so for some time, research has really shown us that the stomach plays a crucial role in immune system health and fighting off disease and really just keeping us healthy. Moving forward, we've seen a negative correlation with immune function, with a deficiency in things like macronutrients, micronutrients, and water, right? So we're going to break down those terms a little bit more so there's some clarity around that. So with macronutrients, what are they? So we're thinking about proteins, carbs, and fats. So with proteins, this is hands down probably the most essential point, not the most essential, but it's one of the most essential points in this conversation we're going to have. Essentially protein, our body is made up of protein. Every cell, everything you look at on your body, to some degree, our body is made up of protein, and that is super important to understand. In terms of diet, protein is one of the things that lacks the most in most diets. Whether that's just it's not prevalent, we don't have a good source of it, or maybe there's just a lack of education of how important protein is in our diet. So one thing we want to talk about is its role in immune health. With protein, it provides a lot of support and structure around the cells of our immune system. So essentially speaking, protein is going to provide a lot of, in the sense, structure, but it's going to help our body build a robust immune system. And we can find protein in various sources like eggs, chicken, turkey, lentils, different plant sources like legumes, nuts, and seeds. Anything that essentially is from an animal or from a plant source to a degree is going to have protein in it. So we're going to come back to that topic here in just a little bit and how we can utilize protein a little bit more in our diet. But moving forward, I want to talk a little bit more about carbohydrates. So carbohydrates is one of those things that's got a lot of, it's got a bad rap for a long time. And it's not just recently, I think it's been over decades. But it's an important conversation to have around what are carbohydrates and their role with immune system. So carbohydrates, as we know through research, they are our body's main source of fuel. Yes, we can use fat in different ways, but our body prefers to use carbohydrates. One thing that's important to understand is with carbohydrates being our body's preferred source of fuel, it helps our immune system function, right? Our immune system is remember we talked about earlier, a collection of cells. So if we're not giving ourselves carbohydrates, then we're not really giving ourselves the fuel to fuel, or I guess, rev up our immune system. So some interesting facts: most diets in America do not struggle in getting enough carbs, right? In typical American diet, you don't have an issue getting carbohydrates. However, research has shown that only 1 in 10 Americans meet the recommended intakes of fruits and vegetables. So if you kind of break that down, that's roughly 90% of the American population struggles to meet the recommended guidelines of just fruit and vegetable intake on a daily basis. That's a pretty big deal, meaning that we're not giving our bodies the fighting chance to take in really quality sources of carbohydrates that are going to be filled with lots of vitamins and minerals to help fight off infectious disease. We're going to get into that a little bit later, so kind of hold that in the back of your mind. So some different examples of carbohydrates. These can range from non-starchy vegetables, non-starchy carbs like vegetables, fruits, and different starchy carbs. We're going to break down what those examples look like when we start kind of talking about our plate and how we want to divide our plate up in a little bit. Moving on to our next, I guess, major macronutrient is going to be fats. So fats are a vital nutrient in our body. They actually provide the transportation and absorption of many vitamins for our body to use. There are certain vitamins in our body that completely or solely reside or live inside of our fat storages in our body. So they're kind of fat soluble vitamins that live inside of the fat, and that's important for our body to have a good source, a healthy source of fats, to be able to help our immune system function on a regular basis. In terms of fat, research has shown that certain healthy fats play a role in supporting immune system and even playing a role in preventing certain cancers. So different fat sources and look like nuts, seeds, healthy oils, fatty fish, things like avocados. Those are all sources of healthy fats that we want to include in our diet on a regular basis to help fight disease, to help fight or to help improve immune function. So I actually want to take this time and I want to go through a little activity with you guys. So if you do have your pen and paper, this is probably the time for you to pull it out. We're going to go through a thing called the plate method. Now, this is a method, essentially it's going to show us how we can divide our plate up into these proteins, carbs, and fats, right? How we can have adequate portions in our diet on a regular basis to give our body the fighting chance to perform optimally in times like this when we need a robust immune system. So I'm going to share the screen real quick so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. So when I spoke earlier on the different examples of vegetables, carbohydrates, proteins, this is really what I was referring to. So what does a plate need to look like on a regular basis? If you look at this plate, notice that there's a line right down the middle and it says non-starchy vegetables. These are going to be items such as peppers, Brussels sprouts, cucumbers, carrots, cauliflower, dark leafy greens. These are going to be essentially our vegetables, right? The things that are going to be low in terms of carbohydrates, but they're going to be high in nutrients. And so we really want to prioritize these in our diet on a regular basis. So with your sheet that you have, I want you guys to draw just a big old circle, right? And then draw a line down the middle. And then you can draw an arrow to that side and just say vegetables. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to do that. Cool. So on one side of that line, you're going to draw another line, just stretching half the page or stretching half your plate, essentially making 2 quarters. On one side, you're going to draw an arrow and you're going to label it carbohydrates. And on one side, you're going to draw an arrow and label it protein. If you guys need a reference, please look at the plate that I have on the screen, and that's going to be, that should resemble the plate you have on your paper. Right. So give a little context to this plate. This plate was actually given by the American Diabetes Association, and I really love this plate because one, it gave a ton of variety in terms of vegetables, in terms of carbohydrates, as well as proteins. As you can see, we have different proteins: nut butter, nuts, tofu, shrimp, eggs, and cheese, and different meats. Obviously, there are definitely other options like lentils and legumes and things like that that can be valuable sources of protein. So we're going to take this one section at a time. So on the vegetable side, I want you guys to, you can take either 2 to 3 vegetables that are listed on the plate, or you can just take 2 to 3 vegetables that you know you would like. And I want you all to draw or write out those on that side, on that half of the plate. So on the half of the plate labeled vegetables, just write out 2 to 3 vegetables. And what I want us to do is actually rinse and repeat that same method. So on the portion that says carbohydrates and on the portion that says proteins, I want you guys to do the exact same thing. List out 2 to 3 carbohydrates and list out 2 to 3 proteins that, one, you know you like, and 2, you would like to try. Cool. So as you guys are writing these down or finishing up, this is essentially in terms of simplicity, it's a very simple and easy way to build a plate on a daily basis. As a rule of thumb, aim to have 3 balanced meals that look like this plate a day. This is going to ensure that you're getting enough quality vegetables. You're going to give yourself enough protein as well as enough carbohydrates. If you guys have an idea or a reference of portion, or you want to reference a portion, I would encourage you to use your hands. Now, this is something that I haven't listed out on the actual plate, but if you take your hands and if, we look at a single hand, if I take the palm of my hand like so, and I would encourage you guys to write this out next to the appropriate areas. But if I'm looking at protein, 1 serving or 3 to 4 ounces of protein is going to equal the palm of my hand, right? So you can roughly say if I'm a female, hey, let's get 1 to 2 palm sizes. If I'm a male, let's aim for 2 to 3. Now these are going to be size depending. If you're a much bigger male, hey, let's go for that 3 palm size. If you feel like you're a smaller male, let's go for 2. Same thing for females. If you just feel like you're taller, maybe let's go to 1 to 2. And so we look at the same thing, take those same portions and go to the carbohydrates. If we look at our hand and we make a cup, so I kind of cut my hand, right? That's going to be our portion size for carbohydrates. So you say, hey, I'm going to get 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 portion sizes for these carbohydrates. Now moving on to vegetables, I'm going to be looking at a fist, right? So as many vegetables as I can fit in a fist, right? That's my portion size. That's how much I want to have. And again, using the same reference, 1 to 2 for females, 2 to 3 for males. Now these are references. These are not exact. These are just ways that we can measure these different nutrients and provide some sort of tracking and some sort of idea of how much we're getting on a regular basis. So like I said, aim for 3 balanced plates of this a day. And we want to aim for those portion sizes. So going over one more time, a palm size for the protein, a cupped hand for the carbohydrates, and we're looking at a fist for the vegetables. So again, these are just a really practical way that we can balance a plate and make sure we're getting all the macronutrients for our body. Awesome.
Hey, Dylan, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Can you just clarify real quickly? So like on your original list that we had, like under carbohydrates, we talked about like veggies were under that carbohydrate list. And then on the plate, you see like veggies are almost like its own separate category versus like the carbs. Will you just kind of walk through just for clarification, kind of same with like the nuts being on the protein side? Will you just kind of briefly clarify like how veggies are almost like a subcategory of carbohydrates, essentially, I guess?
Yeah. So vegetables, right? So that's a good subcategory is probably a good way to put it, where vegetables are not going to have a whole lot of carbohydrates in them, right? So if I look at if I look at a cup of broccoli versus a cup of brown rice, those are going to have 2 very different, in terms of how many carbs in them, very different amounts. Where a cup of rice may have 40 grams of carbohydrates, a cup of broccoli may have 6. So when we think of like vegetables being a subcategory, right? Yes, they're going to provide some energy in the form of calories and carbohydrates, but they're going to be our main source of just getting lots of vitamins and minerals in terms of they're going to be very nutrient dense, right? They're going to give our body a lot of, we'll use the word nutrients. They're going to give our body a lot of nutrients to use to help boost or help improve our immune system. In terms of actual carbohydrates, things like potatoes, things like whole grains, they're definitely going to have some nutrients in them, but they're going to be used more for things like, they're going to be used more for calories, right? For getting energy for our body to use on a regular basis. So when I spoke, and so to give you another point of reference, when I spoke earlier on carbohydrates being our body's main source of fuel, that's when we look at the starchy carbohydrates. Like we want to make sure we have adequate amounts of things like potatoes and fruits and whole grains and different forms of those dense carbs to help fuel our body and help improve our immune system. That help kind of clarify a little bit?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Thanks.
Awesome, guys. I'm going to talk here a little bit longer on the micronutrient side of things, and then I'm actually going to give you guys a chance just to ask me some questions and really just go from there. Some things that you guys may want to know more of, some information maybe I may have covered too fast, anything like that. So micronutrients, we've hit on them quite a bit briefly as we talk through proteins, carbs, and fats, but why are they important? So these are found in the foods we eat, and they play a crucial role in supporting our immune system to be able to fight disease. Research has shown that an inadequate intake of micronutrients, i.e. not eating enough food, causes a breakdown in our body's function or our body's immune system and can hurt its ability to fight infection. So to really break that down simply, if we're not getting enough food on a regular basis, we could say daily, if I'm not eating enough food on a daily basis, I'm not giving my body enough nutrients, enough food to help fight disease. So we want to make sure on a daily basis, we go back to that plate method and we're getting enough of those balanced plates daily to make sure we're giving our body a chance to fight off infectious disease by helping our immune system perform optimally. The last thing I want to talk about here is water and the role water plays in helping our immune system. Now, it's going to be very brief, but research, there are numerous benefits in water's ability to help fuel performance inside the gym, as well as filtration for toxins inside of our body, as well as help carry nutrients through our body. So when we look at those things, I want to talk specifically on filtration and carrying nutrients. Water essentially is going to help our body filter toxins through essentially our kidneys and excrete it through urination and things like that. So we want to make sure that on a daily basis, we're getting enough water to help hydrate our body, to help filter out toxins, so we can help improve our body's immune system. If you guys want a good reference point on how much water to intake, I recommend half your body weight in ounces. Okay, that's a starting point. So keep it simple. If you're 100 pounds, our goal should be 50 ounces of pure water, right? Pure water on a daily basis. The second thing would be carrying nutrients through your body, right? So everything we've just talked about today, we talked about the different macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats, and the micronutrients that play a role in helping our body's immune system. Right? Water is going to play a crucial role in carrying those nutrients through our body and providing them to the cells to be able to help improve our immune system, help allow our immune system to perform optimally, right? To help fight off disease. All right, guys. So that is my final major point on my talk with nutrition. Now, I want to open up this time. I really want to open up this time for Q&A. So if you guys have any questions for me that we can just talk through together, I would love that. Not all at once.
I could. Go ahead, Meg.
So, as I know that you talked about not boosting our immune system with like one particular thing, like a lot of those advertisements that we've been seeing for drinks or shakes or whatever that can boost our immune system. But what are some supplements that, given the changes in our lives currently, like staying indoors most of the time or stress levels, that maybe we are difficult to get from nutrition alone, that we would want to be supporting ourselves with, if any?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think there definitely are a couple of things that we can look at, and I'll list off a couple. So vitamin D, if you are not currently out in the sunshine a lot, vitamin D can be a really good one to supplement. And I'll give some more context here in a second. Vitamin C is an antioxidant, meaning that its ability to, let me word this right, not get too detailed. Antioxidants play a role in helping our body fight off infectious disease. We're going to keep that very broad, but they're important in helping our body fight off infectious disease, right? So vitamin C is one of those antioxidants. It's found in many foods, but you can also supplement it. I would say if minerals, now let's clarify this. Supplementation needs to be, in terms of vitamins and minerals, needs to be taken seriously, because they're, especially if you're supplementing with just single vitamins and minerals, you do have a risk of over supplementing, right? Getting too much of a single vitamin and mineral. So where I would suggest is, if you know you're actually at a deficiency, where i.e. you got some blood work and you say, man, like I'm like really low in zinc, or I'm really low in calcium, or I'm really low in this type of vitamin and mineral, know that ahead of time before we start supplementing things. That way, you know, you're not going to accidentally overdo vitamin and mineral supplementation. So some other things like zinc can also play a role in helping our body fight off or helping improve our body's immune system or immune function. As well as, you can kind of go more of a natural route. Elderberry has also been shown to help in some different studies. So those are kind of the four I would just kind of look at if you're looking at like a natural source: elderberry, and then zinc, vitamin D, and vitamin C.
I think you, just one thing to add there, Dan, I think the word supplementation alone is just important to think of what that means. It's supplementing your normal foods that you're intaking, you know, and not
Yeah,
just relying on, you know, take a protein powder, for example. It's a supplement
right.
to your natural foods that you're eating, meaning we
100%.
want the majority of our protein coming from those real whole foods, because there's other pieces of that you're getting that you're not going to get from just a supplement typically. Most supplements in their processed packaged form are not going to perform the exact same way that if you just get sunlight, you know, compared to vitamin D. So just, again, just something to keep in mind. But supplementation is meant to help optimize and meant to help when we do struggle to get those proper amounts for our bodies. That's why it's there, is to help supplement the natural foods that we eat.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, reiterating what Shane just said, whole foods are going to provide the most bang for your buck in terms of nutrients, and they're going to give your body the chance to really have in a sense, a fighting chance, right? You're going to give your body what it needs to help improve the immune system. Meg, that was a great question. Thank you for asking that. Anybody else?
Holly? Oh, I thought Holly was about to ask a question.
I thought she
I think
was.
I think she's trying. I think the audio is giving her hassle.
Holly, if you're having trouble with the audio, you can type it in the chat and I'll read it out loud if you want to.
Yes, that's great. I got the chat pulled up too, so I can read the question out loud if that makes it easier.
Cool.
Oh, that's William.
William's just typing stuff down.
Thanks, William. I appreciate that.
Dylan, I'm just curious for you, like, what role do you feel like, I mean, I think in the fitness world for so long, we've been sold this idea of like, you know, supplementation, like with protein powders and all that kind of stuff. You have to have it like within this 30-minute window after a workout. Like, for you personally, what does eating around your workout look like? And what do you typically guide clients towards with that?
Repeat that last, so you kind of broke up on me. Repeat that last little bit.
Oh, sorry. So just around like eating around your workouts, I just think it's a really hot topic with a lot of people in the fitness world. What do you typically guide your clients towards? You know, do you typically recommend supplementing like a protein powder? Do you just recommend eating a meal like around that time?
Yeah.
Like, what, I guess for you personally, like what does that look like usually?
That is a phenomenal question. In terms of pre-workout, especially, pre-workout nutrition or pre-workout supplementation comes from the meal you ate 12 hours before, right? The meal that you ate 12 hours before is what your body's using to help fuel the workout ahead of time, or help to fuel the workout during that day, right? So if I'm working out at noon, or let's just say I'm working out at 8 a.m., the workout that I ate or the meal that I ate at night, the night before, that's going to be my body's kind of pre-workout fuel. Now, if you're really wanting to optimize performance, and this is where we kind of find the difference between general health and then performance, right? So if you're wanting to optimize performance, that's when we need to start talking about adding in some sort of pre-workout carbohydrate or protein, some sort of post-workout shake. That's where we kind of start looking at that. If we're looking at post-workout nourishment, I would encourage just to get a really balanced meal an hour after you train, right? Your body is not gonna, it's not gonna completely degrade an hour after you finish training. I think we look at these, I think we look at these kind of generalizations of you must have a protein shake 30 minutes after you train. It can be definitely a good idea if your goal is to optimize muscle gain, but you're going to gain muscle just by eating a meal an hour after you're finished training. So kind of take that into consideration.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
I love that. That was a great question. Let me check the chat real quick.
Meg, have you
No.
had any of your Thrive clients, have they asked any specific stuff to you, just in general, that maybe if they go back and watch this would be beneficial for them?
I think a lot of their questions were around habits for snacking and maybe tools that they can use because they're going to be home more, and
Yeah,
how they can navigate that.
That's a good one.
that's a really good one. So something that Meg, I think you actually shared this resource with me, and it was treating snack time even like a meal, right? So if you feel the need to, if obviously we're at home and there's all the food is readily available in our kitchen, 30 steps away. So if you really say, hey, I want a snack right now, we'll make it a balanced meal. Say I want to try to get a protein source, um, a healthy fat, a carbohydrate, a vegetable if you can, and make it like a small meal, right? That way, there's almost more of an this like satisfying fulfillment from it versus it just kind of be a mindless eating. Also take into consideration, like anxiety and stress is elevated a lot, I think, in everyone because of these weird circumstances, situations. So really take time, I would say, as an individual, and give yourself 5 minutes to really think about, okay, am I really hungry or am I just stressed and I'm anxious and I want to turn towards food? Okay, if you really are hungry, okay, go for the balanced meal / snack. If you're not, drink 20 ounces of water and then like find an activity to do. Maybe it's read a book, maybe it's go for a walk. You kind of take your mind off of that anxious moment for the time being.
I've heard it said too, like ask yourself, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? HALT is the acronym. Or I
That's
throw in with
great.
sometimes as bored. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or bored. I think those are 5 big ones that you can kind of ask yourself the emotion of what are you actually feeling. And like Dylan said, that 5-minute window just to really try to dig in a little bit deeper, like what am I actually feeling and thinking right now?
Yeah, that's really great. I love that.
Anything else from your clients, Meg?
Another thing that I hear a lot too is the mindset after, and I know you've discussed this before, but maybe not in a place where they've heard it, but the mindset around, and especially with talking about the immune system, around having a snack or meal that was unhealthy or day where you didn't eat very healthy, and what kind of mindset things you recommend so that you can stay consistent, and like one meal is maybe not going to throw your immune system off track or throw you off track completely. So just your thoughts on that, or what you typically do with clients when it comes to kind of like training themselves for binging or snacking or something like that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I know something that Shane and I have spoken on before. I actually believe maybe Shane actually gave me this from a lady named Adi Cashew. And the quote was, you're always one meal away from being back on track. If you have this idea of all or nothing and, hey, I'm either all in or I'm all out, I think the thought process of saying, I may have had some ice cream one, know that that's not going to jeopardize your body's immune system. It's just not how it works. Like our bodies just don't do that. And two, if it's more of an emotional side of things where you're like, oh, I feel like I've just destroyed my body, I can't go. You're just one meal or one good decision away from being right back on track, you know. And that's, I think, being able to have that, take a step outside of that current situation and think, man, okay, I got to make one more good decision. And not even thinking it's like a good decision, but I'm making a better choice towards my goals, and I'm right back on track. That's all it is.
I think you nailed it. And I think it's a vicious cycle too. If someone has maybe a meal a day or even a weekend or something that they just feel like, man, I just got derailed from whatever they're working towards goal wise, and then they go in this vicious cycle of, so they restrict their food for the next 3 days really hardcore, and like, okay, cool, I'm back on track now. But like that literally just puts your body in this cycle of now being really hungry and desiring all this stuff again. So it's,
Yeah.
like Dylan said, you're much better off just the next day waking up that morning having a great normal balanced meal, instead of trying to like restrict yourself and punish yourself for whether it's a meal a day, a weekend, whatever. You'd be better off just getting right back to eating real whole foods, balance, and in proper portions for yourself, I think.
Yeah. And I think there is something to go for moderation. As I think as there is this evolution in us as people, you know, I think when we start with nutrition, I remember myself, you know, when I first started, Samantha and I joke about it sometimes. My wife and I will joke about this. Like, I wouldn't even put brown sugar in the crock pot if I was making like a big old batch of chicken, because I'm like, oh, I can't have any sugar. And it's like, that's a little ridiculous. Um, and I think that there is a point for moderation and say, you know, it's okay for me to have a cup of ice cream. It's okay for me to maybe enjoy this treat, as long as you have the awareness not to make that an everyday thing. If it's once a month with the family, there's not a big deal with that. And I think that's an evolution that comes with everybody at a specific time. You know, it just depends on you as a person.
Yeah. And it really depends on what your goals are too. I mean,
Right.
if someone's goal is to stand on a stage of a bodybuilding show, then quite frankly, that restriction is probably going to look a lot different than just normal people like us who just want to be a little bit healthier and be at a healthy body weight and stuff. You know, I think there's some great mental and emotional benefits to going and grabbing an ice cream cone with your family. I think recognizing that for what it is, as an enjoyment, a treat to go do that, versus oh man, I screwed up, now I have to restrict and deprive myself for the next 3 days, and I have to do endless hours of cardio. It creates a cycle.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. There was one thing I want to add. I've had some clients that I talked to this week on, and actually something that I've struggled with a lot is staying on a schedule or staying on a routine. I've noticed that working from home, and even though it's more convenient to eat food, it's actually been sometimes more challenging for me to stay on a consistent schedule. And I'll get to the end of the day and be like, I totally forgot to eat lunch. You know, and it's just like so it's so unusual. I'm usually like a very consistent eater. Like I'm like every day I know when and where I'm eating. So for me, I've actually just had to start setting like little timers or little reminders to say, hey, it's lunchtime, right? I know I had breakfast at this time. I probably need to go have lunch now, right? And so it's just something, you know, if you feel like you're struggling, or if someone in here is listening and they feel like they're struggling with eating consistently right now, just try setting a timer every like 3 to 4 hours and say, hey, um, I just saw that pop up. Yeah. I'm gonna set a timer to eat.
Holly, I was trying to see if you could, I can't remember if you can dial into a group chat like this. I know you can on a private one, but well, I think it's a pretty good place to leave it right now, Dylan. I think,
Yeah.
do you have anything you want to kind of wrap up with?
Yeah, I mean, just I think as some food for thought. You know, I posted this on in the South Landing Facebook page a little bit ago, but you know, this is a really awesome opportunity for all of us to be in the sense that we are all simultaneously in the same chapter of life. We're all experiencing this COVID-19 outbreak together, and like although it's affecting us differently, Like we're all in the same chapter. And that's really important to think about is that we're all doing it together and there's opportunities to grow through this and recognize that there's some areas that you can improve without being at the gym and maybe not having all the food you normally have available, but finding those weak points kind of in your chain and see, man, how can I grow through this and really develop as an athlete, as a coach, as a husband, as a wife, whatever your role is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to plug one thing real quick. If you're watching this live or if you're watching a rerun in the next couple of days, we're going to try something on Sunday evening. Just stay tuned for the exact time. We'll send it out to you guys in the next day or two. But doing like a live cooking thing together where we're going to pick some foods that I was at the grocery store about a week ago, and there's certain things that were just gone, but there was a whole host of items that people just kind of forget about. So we're going to do like the plan is to cook like a shepherd's pie, basically live. And if anybody wants to follow along, we'll send out an ingredients list to you guys so you can go buy the stuff and you can cook along with us. But we'll send out more instructions for that. So if any of you guys that are watching right now, or if you're watching the recorded version here in the next day or two, just kind of keep an eye out for that.
Perfect. Awesome. This was fun. Thank you guys for tuning in.